Good morning and good afternoon. And just in case I forget, next week Alex will be giving a Way-Seeking Mind talk. So he will be telling us the story of how he came to be where he is at this moment in his practice. So it's always a wonderful thing to listen to Way-Seeking Mind talks. And can you all hear me well enough on Zoom? Okay. So case 2 of the Mumon, the gateless barrier. Here we're using Robert Aitken's translation. Case 2 is Pai-chang's fox. I'll read. We're really going to just examine the first half, so I'll read the first half. Once when Pai-chang gave a series of talks, a certain old man was always there listening together with the monks. When they left, he would leave too. One day, however, he remained behind. Pai-chang asked him, "Who are you standing here before me?" The old man replied, "I am not a human being. In the far distant past, in the time of Kasyapa Buddha, I was head priest at this mountain. One day a monk asked me, 'Does an enlightened person fall under the laws of cause and effect or not?' And I replied, 'Such a person does not fall under the laws of cause and effect.' With this I was reborn 500 times as a fox. Please say a turning word for me and release me from the body of a fox." He then asked Pai-chang, "Does an enlightened person fall under the law of cause and effect or not?" Pai-chang said, "Such a person does not evade the law of cause and effect." Hearing this, the old man immediately was enlightened. Making his bows, he said, "I am released from the body of the fox." So some of us know this story quite well, and for some of us it might be fairly new. So just to go through the story again to get us oriented. Pai-chang was giving a series of talks at the temple. And the teachers are often named after the mountain, so the mountain was Mount Pai-chang. And just like us, in our temples right now, and in the temples of our life, the monks were listening. And a certain old man was there listening too. And when the other monks would leave at the end of the talk, he would leave too. But on this day, he didn't. On this day, he stayed behind. And Pai-chang saw him there and said, "Who are you standing here before me?" And he said, "I am not a human being. In the far distant past, in the time of Kasyapa Buddha, I was the head priest." So he was Pai-chang many eons ago. And a monk asked me, "Does an enlightened person fall under the laws of cause and effect or not?" So this is a question about karma and cause and effect. And he replied to that monk, this is many eons ago, he replied, "An enlightened person does not fall under the laws of cause and effect." And the effect of him saying that was that he was born as a fox 500 times. So this line is an important line, and we're going to come back to it a little bit later. But first we'll examine cause and effect. So he asked Pai-chang, "Can you say a turning word? Can you say something for me to release me from this fox body?" And then he asked Pai-chang, "Does an enlightened person fall under the laws of cause and effect or not?" And Pai-chang says, "Such a person does not evade the laws of cause and effect." And in that moment he is enlightened. So hearing that an enlightened person does not evade the laws of cause and effect awoke him in a particular way, and he was released from the body of the fox. So that's the story. So it starts with when it says a certain old man. I like that it says a certain old man, because that certain in there, I think, really encourages us to see ourselves in that old man. That certain old man is us. There's that certain old man hearing the Dharma. And we, of course, can hear the Dharma in every moment of our lives. The birds are singing the Dharma to us. Everything is calling to us. Everything is the Dharma. So we're that certain man, old man, listening to the Dharma. And normally he would leave with the monks, but on this occasion he stayed behind. And this staying behind, I'm sure all of us know that feeling. I know this feeling quite well of I'm going through my day, maybe very attentively. It's not that I'm not being attentive, but sometimes there's just a moment at which I really stop. Maybe someone has said a certain word, or I've heard a certain sound, or I've read a certain phrase, and there's just this feeling of stopping and fully absorbing the moment, fully absorbing what's going on, whatever it might be, in a slightly qualitatively different way to the more kind of narrative way that we move through our day. So I think that is embodied in the monk stayed behind. He didn't leave with the other monks, he remained, he stayed behind. He was present. He was very, very present in that moment. And then Pai-chang asks him, "Who are you?" And he replies that he used to be the head priest, but that he'd had this exchange with a monk who'd asked him, does an enlightened person fall under the laws of cause and effect or not? And he replied that they do not. And then he was born as a fox. So we can see that this, just in this story, there's an enormous ramification if we do not take into account the laws of cause and effect. If we ignore cause and effect, the impact is enormous. 500 lives as a fox in this particular story. So I thought we could examine a little bit about cause and effect. First of all, I think the easiest way to think about it is just to think of ourselves and all the causes and conditions that got us to where we are in this moment. A little bit like Always Seeking Mind Talk does, but we're talking about all the causes and effects. The kind of more obvious ones, our parents, our education, the country we live in, the gender that we are, the class that we're in, all of those, very easy for us to remember, all the causes and conditions. But of course there are just a vast web of causes and conditions, far more than we could ever possibly imagine. So we can think of ourselves and all the causes and conditions that bring us to where we are here. And then we can apply cause and effect in relation to other people, all the causes and conditions that brought them to where they are. And we can apply it to any sort of living being. Quite often I notice little insects going across the road, and I sort of reflect on, I wonder what they're up to. I wonder what's happening that they're in the middle of this big sealed road, this bitumen road, this little tiny millipede or something as it's making its way across. What's it been doing with its life? Who were its parents? What's it up to? What happened to it over the course of its life, however many days or weeks or months that life might be? So this noticing the causes and effects that bring all of us to this present moment that we're in, where we're alive. We can reflect on cause and effect like that. And we can also then reflect on cause and effect from here we are now, and what impact are we having, what causes and effects are we having on those who are around us. It's sort of like the near proximity of now, the recent past and what will be just tipping into the future a little bit. We can reflect on our own actions, our own speech, and our own thoughts, how they're impacting around us from this point now. And we can also reflect in the same way about other people and other animals and plants. What impact is their existence having right now around them, and what effect will it have just in the kind of immediate, fairly near term? And then we can also look at what effect do we have in maybe in the much longer term. The effect of things that we maybe did a long time ago, are those effects still rippling? The effects of what we're doing now, will they have distant maybe in time and distant in space? What effects might they have that we'll never know about? The distant effects that we have on people that we know nothing about. There's many, many times in which we have an impact on someone and have no knowledge of it whatsoever. Good, bad and neutral. A little bit good, very good. A little bit bad, very bad. Neutral. There's enormous rippling effect that we know nothing about, that we have on people and that we have on other plants and animals and that they have on us. So we can just sort of look at cause and effect from that all those different angles and appreciate how powerful it is and how complex it is and how unknowable it is. And then we can also look at cause and effect in a way sort of karmically. The part of the actions, the thoughts, speech and words that we intentionally engage in. And this is in a way the difference between a broader sense of cause and effect, that's things that happen just unconsciously, or things that are just happening. They're kind of neutral, they don't have a moral component to them. And then there's our intentional actions and our intentional speech and our intentional thoughts, and they have more of a karmic effect. They affect us in a way that forms who we are and how we behave in the world, how we respond to others, the patterns of our thinking. So we can kind of reflect on that too as another aspect of cause and effect. And this sort of more neutral, non-karmic aspect of cause and effect, I think can help us really appreciate that we're simply alive. Because cause and effect, in a way, is the opposite of rigidity. If there was no cause and effect, there'd be nothing happening. Nothing would affect anything. Nothing would happen. I mean, we wouldn't exist. Cause and effect obviously is essential just for life. But one way to appreciate the beauty and the wonderfulness of cause and effect is just to reflect on our breathing. That when we make the decision to breathe in, our lungs react to that. There is an effect. They expand. And then the air that we breathe in has oxygen, and it goes through all those little sort of vessels in our lungs and get into our bloodstream and course through our body. There's this enormous effect from the act of breathing in. And then there's this effect of breathing out. And the breathing out takes the carbon dioxide and the other waste products out of our body, creating space again for the oxygen to go in. So the cause and effect is a great freedom. It's our life. It's a freedom because of cause and effect. Sometimes people think of cause and effect a little bit more like a burden, like the weight of it, the weight of our actions, the harm we might do. How do I be careful? And of course, that's important for us to think about that. And sometimes we can feel the pain of seeing the effect of harmful actions that either we do or other people do. We can feel the weight of that. It can feel kind of heavy. So it's good to balance that with seeing the enormous freedom that we have, because cause and effect is all about change. It's about fluidity, movement, flux. Without it, we wouldn't be alive. So there's a lightness to cause and effect as well. So I think this is something that's worth really reflecting on at length, cause and effect. Some of the effects I think it can have is this sense of wonder at the freedom that we're able to breathe. The cause and effect is the opposite to rigidity, rigidity, it's the opposite of rigidity. We can reflect compassionately at how fortunate it is that we're alive because of all the things that make it possible for us to be alive. All the people that have made it possible for us to be here. And particularly those of us who are now able to listen to the Dharma. How grateful we can be to our parents, to our teachers, to the structures in our society that allow us to be in this circumstance, that we can hear the Dharma. Which is not to forget that there may be difficulties with some of the people and forces that allow us to hear the Dharma, but we can still appreciate the good aspects. And it can help us to wish for ourselves that we will be skillful. If we reflect on how nothing that we say or do doesn't have an effect, there's not a single thing that doesn't have an effect. This is the profound truth of cause and effect, and very valuable for us to keep on remembering. There's no action that doesn't have an effect. There's no thought that doesn't have an effect. So we can really cultivate a deep wish and aspiration for our thoughts, our speech and our actions to be of benefit, and to want that for others. It can help us be compassionate to others who we see do harmful things. It can help us be compassionate in knowing that all the causes and conditions got them there, so that we don't lay blame too heavily just on the individual. It can help us know that they are behaving the way they are, let's say, because of myriad factors. So it can help us not be too judgmental. And in fact, in a way, if we're going to do one thing or another, we would be better to put responsibility on ourselves, like take responsibility when we fail, like I will take full responsibility, take full responsibility when we falter, when we make mistakes, and just mentally within our minds give much, much more compassion to others when they falter. It's not their fault. It's much more to do with all the circumstances in their lives. We can really do that with others. If we're going to err one way or the other, take full responsibility ourselves and put less burden of responsibility on others. Which of course is not to say that on a practical level we have to sometimes hold people accountable. There are times when we have to do that. But more within our own practice, to really be compassionate to other people's unskillfulness, but hold ourselves to account. Kindly hold ourselves to account, not harshly, but just kindly hold ourselves to account. And also, actually the other day I listened to a lovely guided meditation that Jack gave to Oz, the group Oz Zen, and she was speaking about the not knowing mind. And this teaching can help us really be humble about how little we know, because the laws of cause and effect are so complex and untrackable that can just help us really settle into we just don't really know anything. Even in the most ordinary relative sense, we really don't know. We don't know somebody's mind. We don't know people's motivations. We can only make very rough approximations about anything to do with anybody else. So that's good to just reflect on that not knowing. So there's the part in the story where Pai-chang, the old man, asks Pai-chang, does an enlightened person fall under the laws of cause and effect or not? And Pai-chang says, such a person does not evade the laws of cause and effect. And the old man was immediately enlightened. So just that part of the story is like another poetic way to remind us of how powerful this teaching is. That we can be awakened, we can realize the truth of the Dharma by contemplating cause and effect. And I think really we can take any one of the teachings of the Buddha, and if we examine it closely enough and fully enough, it really opens us up to all the other teachings. Like all the teachings, they're like different gates coming into the same Dharma hall. It doesn't really matter which one you start with. It'll all take you to the same basic truth that the same basic truths of the Buddha that the Buddha taught, and all the ancestors up until now. Any one of those Dharma gates that you go through will take you to all the other teachings. So just contemplating cause and effect will take you to all the other teachings if you contemplate it closely enough. So there's a comment also that goes with this koan, women's comment. Not falling under the law of cause and effect. Why should this prompt 500 lives as a fox? Not evading the laws of cause and effect. Why should this prompt a return to human life? If you have the single eye of realization, you will appreciate how old Pai-chang lived 500 lives as a fox, as lives of grace. I remember reading this koan many years ago and was deeply moved by this idea of the fox leading 500 lives as lives of grace, rather than seeing it as just punishment, like you made a mistake, now you're going to be a fox. Rather than seeing it like that, seeing that there's this, that we can look at a fox in a number of ways. In sort of Asian culture, often foxes are seen as, and I think in European culture too, as a bit crafty and sneaky and mischievous. But also we can think of foxes as sort of sprightly and playful, spirited, alive, energetic. Here in Canberra, you quite often see foxes out in the countryside, and they're quite distinctly different in colour, because the landscape is kind of green, generally, sort of a lightish green, and then a fox suddenly appears and it's this bright reddish orangey brown with the big fluffy tail. Whenever I see a fox, it's always very alert. It's a sprightly, alert animal, and it disappears off. So we should look at this line at the beginning where the old Pai-chang, the old man, who eons ago answered the monk that an enlightened person does not fall under the laws of cause and effect. He was a good teacher. So if he said that, there must be some depth to it. It wasn't just a mistake. And if we look at things from the essential point of view, no matter what a person does, there is an okayness about them that is not determined by their actions. Our Buddha nature, our true nature, our simple right to be alive is not determined by our actions. And I think all of us generally intuit that if we see someone who's in need of help suddenly, we don't check out like, what kind of person are you? I'm going to figure out whether I like you or not, or whether you're a good person or not, whether you're worth helping. We tend to spontaneously help. If a child fell over and cut their knee, we would just go to that child. Are you okay? We would say, what are your grades like at school, before I decide whether I'm going to help you or not. we don't do something like that. And I think that's our wisdom, our natural wisdom, that we know there's a quality to all living beings that is not subject to or determined by anything to do with their actions. Every being just has the right to be alive. Just because they exist. Just their mere existence is enough. It's not their existence plus the quality of their actions. So this, I think, is what the old Pai-chang was pointed to when he said, an enlightened person does not fall under the laws of cause and effect. So our job, I think, as practitioners is to hold these two truths at the same time. To be aware of the power of our actions, to be aware of all the causes and conditions that got us to now, to be aware of what effect our actions now may have on future nows, and at the same time to remember that there is a quality in all of us that is untainted, unstained and unaffected by anything that we say or do, and that applies to everyone. I think if we hold those two together, then we can be skillful, we can be responsive, and we can be joyful. So I think I'll stop there and see if there's anything that anyone would like to ask or comment on.